Let me flip screens here. Aha! I worked around it. All right. The Pink Bellower. Yes. I was once a young man, the age of 5. I was quite the musician, impressing not only my parents, but also my friends, my classmates, my teacher, my principal, and even my dog. I know this because they would say stuff like, "You suck," and that was pretty good for a weenie. My dad was the most encouraging when he would say, "Is someone strangling a cat?" Whenever I sang, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, ooh." I played the recorder and sang all the time because I loved making everyone happy. They screamed at me and even threw stuff out of excitement for my performances. Heck, for them, I even threw in a couple of bagpipe solos. I knew I had found my calling in life. When I was resting my pipes after a good day's work of serenading the innocent, I would watch the good old 42-inch television TV, the good stuff, like SpongeBob SquarePants. I knew I was resting my pipes, but whenever that bad boy came on, I had to sing the theme song at the top of my lungs. SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob SquarePants, I would sing. Shockingly, my favorite character was not SpongeBob. He was actually the My Leg guy. Or at least it was until he was executed by being fried on live TV in episode 68. It was pretty funny. I laughed. But then I realized he was my favorite, so I cried very hard instead. I turned off the TV and threw it out the window off of the 216-foot cliff we had right outside our house. I even threatened to stop singing and making music, which my dad was understandably upset about, saying, "OMG, why you throw the friggin' TV out the window, you little turd?" He then paddled my belly with a waffle that he microwaved, and I told him, "Why didn't you put it in the toaster?" Through tears, I choked back, but I already knew he used the toaster exclusively for his Totino's pizza rolls like an animal. He told me to go to my room. I Naruto ran up the stairs as I would do every day to assert my dominance, but my dad was too distracted replacing the TV with a microwave oven so he could cook waffles in the living room where our refrigerator slash freezer was. I snarled like a dinosaur and ran into my room, face down on my pillows. After pouting for a moment, I brought out my harp and began to play. Sometimes, when I would play the harp, it would summon my mother, who would come into my room and encourage me by dumping snacks such as Skittles and whole oranges on the floor, as well as throwing water on me to hydrate my soul. This time, she didn't do those things, but she did come into my room during my harp cover of Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. She said, "Hey, Rick," which was my name. "I noticed you threw the TV out the window and that your father waffle slapped your tummy and sent you to your room, so I wanted to cheer you up. I know just what you need, a poster for your room." This was nice because my room consisted of only 39 posters on a singular wall. Now I could finally have a poster on another wall. I then turned on the TV that was in my room to watch more SpongeBob. I had gotten over the My Leg guy's horrendous death, and I knew I needed a new favorite character. The SpongeBob theme was playing, but my dad had gotten hyper from eating all the waffles and the screeching like a baboon downstairs. The title announced that this was the episode 69, which was Ghost Man episode where SpongeBob and Patrick went onto the Flying Dutchman's ship to spook Bikini Bottom. As I watched, it came to the part where the Dutchman told them to let out their ghostly howl, and Patrick went, "Lee, lee, lee, lee." I realized that Patrick was just like me that moment when I sang my music for everyone. I started singing "Leedle, leedle, leedle, lee" along with Patrick, and I knew I had found my new favorite character. My mom came in shortly after this with a poster of Patrick Star, which she slapped on my wall across my bed. How did you know from Patrick Star was going to be my favorite character, Mom? I said. Oh, it's because the Pink Bellower told me, sweetie, she responded. As she uttered those words, the light in my room fluttered like that Napoleon Dynamite scene where he did interpreted dance and waved his hands like a butterfly. In between those flutters, I swear I saw Patrick Star smile at me from the TV. Mom, did you see that? I said, but as I turned toward the door, she had already vanished. I turned toward the TV. Patrick had also vanished, and the episode ended with a strange message. The Pink Bellower will return. I switched off the TV and turned to look at the 39 posters on my other wall, which happened to all be pictures of rocks. In shock, I remembered Patrick lived in a rock. I turned to look at the poster of Patrick, but it was blank. When I looked back at the rock wall, the poster in the middle was of a rock with a small pink figure underneath it. Upon closer inspection, there wasn't actually any pink thing underneath it at all. After practicing my lead-a-little-ease a little longer, I looked back at the poster. Patrick was there again! It was a very strange day, and it felt like it was getting stranger. I went downstairs, where I found out my father had ordered a new TV for the living room. A strange little man named Arnold lived on the bridge that went across from our cliff to the neighboring cliff. He was the one that delivered our TVs. I watched as he threw another 42-inch TV from his suspended house, which shook the bridge left and right. This would usually knock his humble abode right off the bridge, the 216-foot cliff. He would pick up one of the several TVs that were thrown down there in preparation for when we needed another TV, and he would repair the TV as well as his home on the bridge. It's pretty amazing what strange little men can do. When he threw our TV over, it flew through the air to the back of our house and boomeranged through our back window, landing and breaking the microwave my dad had placed in the living room. My father let out a primal scream into the night. My dog Chewy joined in, howling at the moon. I howled at the moon along with them. Soon after, my dad ordered a new microwave for his waffles, for it to be thrown by Arnold, who also delivered our microwaves. It was a vicious cycle that would repeat itself daily of microwave on TV action. That night at dinner, I sat and stared at the plate of fried chicken and mashed potatoes my loving mother had graciously placed before me. My mind was occupied with the events that had happened that day. Was Patrick actually looking at me through the TV? Who was the mysterious Pink Bellower that was mentioned by my mother in the end credits of SpongeBob? Sandy is a girl? I pondered these questions, lost in a trance and staring at my plate, when the food suddenly turned into a rock, the same cartoonish rock that Patrick lived under. I closed my eyes and shook my head, opening them to reveal my food was back to normal. Thank goodness. I didn't want to eat rocks and break my teeth. How would I be able to sing without those beautiful pearly whites? I looked up, and pink star versions of my parents looked back at me. I was startled and tried blinking, and they were back to normal. What's wrong, sweetie? My mother inquired. It's just been a really weird day is all, I responded. The rest of the meal was uneventful. Dad had opted to eat waffles instead once again, so my mom had to dump the rest of the 20 pounds of chicken and 5 gallons of mashed potatoes down the cliff. Since our fridge was filled with pre-microwaved waffles, my mother would go to the store every day for fresh ingredients for meals because of this. I heard the echoes of the wolves who had heeded the call of our previous howling into the night, devouring the fresh food they had just acquired. After dinner, I went into my room for the night and blew off my homework again. After all, I could just finish it as well as the other 75 assignments I'd previously blown off for later, because homework was for weenies. I only needed my music anyways. I turned on the TV to see if there were any more reruns of SpongeBob, or at least Paul Blart Mall Cop, but only caught the last tenth of Paul Blart. I found myself staring at the window towards the bridge, where little Arnold was finishing his house before the next inevitable destruction of it occurred. I decided to go to sleep early. I lay down and looked over my collection of 39 rock posters, and then at the wall right across from my bed. The poster Patrick Starr was smiling at me. I rolled onto my side, facing away from my door, and closed my eyes just before I fell asleep. I heard footsteps approaching my room, but I was tired, so I didn't turn to look. My mother's voice spoke quietly. "Good night, my young goober. Let me read you a bedtime story." She then started reciting the familiar story, The Ugly Barnacle. I snapped back to reality, as Eminem, the great white rapper, would put it, and my mother's voice changed suddenly. But the new voice was familiar to me. I turned towards it. As I opened my eyes, I saw the poster in front of me was empty, and I realized what was going on. I looked over at the door and saw, not my mother, but Patrick Starr himself, but with hyper-realistic eyes. I realized this was the Pink Bellower right in front of me. I was paralyzed with fear, and he made the first move. "What's wrong, old buddy, old pal, chum, old friend, old amigo, old acquaintance, old fart, old man, old woman, old piece of cheese you left in the fridge a bit too long, and now it's gross and you need to remove it, but you don't want to remove it, so you ask your dad to remove it, but he is too busy with the microwave and doesn't know how cheese even ended up in the fridge, what with all the waffles and whatnot, so you throw the fridge off the cliff somehow for Arnold to replace old goober Rick." He said all that in one breath and then inhaled deeply, puffing out his chest like a huge jacked man, or Hugh Jackman. Then I realized something and once again snapped back to reality. "Aren't you a creature of the sea? I thought you couldn't breathe air." "That's right, you just got epic pranked, boy." Unzipping the perfectly animated replicated suit of Patrick Starr, my mother emerged and started T-posing to show that she totally pwned me. "Whoa!" Then Chewie and my father came into the room. My father flipped on the lights and said, "The whole thing about being a waffle-cooking buffoon was all fake and made up too. Whoa! And I'm not even a dog. Whoa! And I'm not even a small man." Arnold had come in and unzipped his costume to reveal a bigger figure who is actually Arnold Schwarzenegger. Whoa! "And we got it all on camera," my mom said. But when she pointed towards the cameraman, he didn't say anything or unzip a suit because he was the skeleton in my closet who was in fact actually a skeleton and dead. "Oh, you joker," we all said in unison. We all had a good laugh. I serenaded them as a send-off, and they chucked pillows at me and started an epic pillow fight. And everyone went to bed, except Arnold, who fell off the cliff because he couldn't see in the dark. But when everyone had left, except for the dead skeleton cameraman, something strange happened. I looked at the poster again, and Patrick was back, except this time he was smiling at me, and he had hyper-realistic eyes. The end. Wow. There we go. That was the unveiling of the Pink Bellower, my friends.